Hi there, good day everyone. My name is Michael. You're welcome to my YouTube channel. This is Mike Mode Fashion Tutorial. I really want to appreciate you for your time, for subscribing. Okay, for those of us just joining the channel today, please I want you to like, share, subscribe, and comment in my channel. Okay, in our last video we talked about how to take body measurements. So by this time I expect that everyone that has seen that video is supposed to know how to take body measurements. But today what we'll be doing is totally a different thing. Now, as we have learned how to take body measurements, now we are going to learn how to impute these body measurements while drafting a well-fitted pattern. Okay, so today we are going to be drafting a pattern. We're going to be drafting the bodice. Okay, the bodice. We're going to be drafting the bodice. All right, before we continue, let's go on a short break. Don't leave that there. I'll be back. You're welcome back to my channel. Okay, before we start our pattern drafting, we are going to be looking at symbol key. Symbol key, okay? So as we'll be using these terms in our patterns, it won't look strange to us, okay? So anytime we see CF in a pattern, what that means is center front. And when we see a CB, it means center back. BP at this point is bust point, bust depth. It could even be apex, okay? SS here means side seam. Side seam. SS means side seam. SW means side waist. SH means shoulder. HBL means horizontal balance line. SH tip means shoulder tip. Okay, so these are more of the things we're going to be seeing as we begin to draft our pattern. Now, let's get to it. Okay, on this table right now, I have my pattern paper. Now, videos past, I introduced us to tools that are needed, that are essential in pattern drafting, of which this paper is one of which I said is necessary for us to draft our patterns. First things first, this paper, the length of this paper is about 36 inches and the breadth of it is about 24 inches. It's an A1 paper. Unlike the paper used for printouts in computer, which is an A4 paper, this is an A1 paper. So we are about to begin right now. First things first, I'm going to take my pencil and I'm going to have a margin of about 2 inches on my pattern paper. A margin of about 2 inches on my pattern paper. So I'm going to be working on the measurements I took in the last video. I'm going to be working on the measurements I took in the last video. So in the last video, we had, first things first, we took a measurement of the full front length, which was about 16 inches. So from this margin, I'm going to measure down 16 inches as my full front length. 16 inches. You can have an equidistance of this so as to have a very straight line. So I'm measuring 16 inches. I'm going to join them. I'm going to draw a straight line. So this line as it were right now, this is my waist. This is my waistline. This is my waistline. Okay? Now the next thing I want to get right now is my hip line. My hip depth. Okay? My hip depth. Now in the fashion industry, for an average adult, the hip depth of an average adult is about 8 inches from the waist. It's about 8 inches for the waist, from the waist down. Now, for petite, Miss Petites and juniors, you can have those that have hip depth of 6 inches, 7 inches, and so on and so forth. But a better way for us to get our hip depth for an average adult, because no two persons are the same. Now, we're actually drafting patterns not for commercial purpose, like for mass production, but we are drafting pattern for an individual or probably a custom made garment. Okay, so how can you get an hip depth of an individual you'll be making patterns for? It is very simple. It's just 1/3 of the measurement between the waist and the knee. Okay, between the side waist to the knee, divided by 3. Now for this my model here, the measurement between our side waist to knee is about 23 inches. So if we divide 23 inches by 3, we should have about 7.66 or thereabout on our calculator. So in approximation, that'll be like 7.67. Okay, so what does that tell us? That's 7 inches and about 5/8 of an inch. So from this waistline, we'll be measuring down 7 inches plus 5/8 of an inch. 7 inches plus 5/8 of an inch. Okay, 7 inches so right now this is my hip line. This is my hip line. Now the next thing we want to get right now is our nape to waist. Okay, either we call it the nape to waist, either we call it our center back length. Either ways, they mean the same thing. Either you say the nape to waist or the center back length. So from this side, I'll look for my center back length. And in my measurement, the measurement I took for my center back length, I have about 13 inches. Okay, for my center back length, I have about 13 inches. So from here, I'll just mark out 13 inches. I don't need to go in too much. About 5 inches is fine, or thereabouts. So 13 inches here. Okay, so this is my center back length. Okay, this is my center back length. All right, for the purpose of demonstration, I will just put it as my center length. That is for the back. Okay, this is my center length for the back. Now, how do I ascertain my bust line right now? Okay, this is what you do. Your nape to waist divided by 2. So that is 13 divided by 2 will give you about 6.5 inches. That's from this waistline to this space is about 13 inches. Divided by 2 will give me 6.5 inches. So I'm going to come down -1 again. So instead of 6.5, I'll have 5.5. That is actually an ease for the armhole. So coming down 5.5. That's actually an ease for the armhole. 5.5. That's actually an ease for the armhole. So that -1 we took out. Nape to waist divided by 2, or center back length divided by 2 -1. Okay, -1. So this is quite bigger than this side right now. Just for a recap again, how we came about this is the center back length divided by 2. Okay, whatever it gave us. So our center back length is about 13 inches divided by 2, then -1. We came down -1 to allow for ease of the armhole. So right now, this line we have here is our bust line. This is our bust line right now. Okay, now the next thing we are going to be looking at is we are going to be looking at the difference between our center back length or our nape to waist from our full front length. So what that means is that, to recap, that is full front length minus center back length. Full front length, our full front length is 16. Our center back length is 13. So 16 minus 13, and that is what we have here on our pattern here. Okay, so this is the difference between our center back length and our full front length. Okay, so this measurement here, which is about 3 inches, we are going to bring it down here. We're going to impute it here. So we are bringing down 3 inches to this point, just over the bust line. Okay, so we bring our 3 inches here. Okay, we'll bring our 3 inches here. Now the next on our pattern is 2 inches. Above that line we drew now is going to be our chest line. Okay, it's going to be our chest line. Now this is our across chest. This is our across chest. Okay, this is our across chest. This is our cross chest. Now, how do we get our cross back? Just the midpoint of these two, between this bust line and this center back length. The center point between the bust line and our center length is our cross back. This is the standard also for every pattern, every one. The center point between the bust line and the across back is, the center point between our bust line and our center length is our across back. Is our across back. Okay, that is our across back. All right, so one thing we have to do again is we have to impute our measurements. All right, so for the bust we have 34 inches as our bust measurement. We are going to divide 34 by 4, and that will give us 8.5. We have divided our bust. Okay, our bust is 34 in the measurement we took. Divided by 4 will give us 8.5. Our waist is 26 inches. Divided by 4 will give us 6.5 inches. Okay, and our hip measurement we took was about 35 inches. Divided by 4 will give us 8.75 inches. Now I want us to note something, however. Now you can see for the hip, for the waist, for the bust, we actually divided them into 4. Now for the upper part of it, we will not be dividing into 4, but rather we'll be dividing into 2. Okay, so for the across back, our measurement for our cross back is 13.5 inches. So that's divided by 2. Okay, we are dividing by 2 now, not by 4 right now. Is 6.75. Now for our cross chest, the measurement we took was 13 inches. Divided by 2 is 6.5. So if you observe what we have done here, from this part down, from the bust down, we divided by 4. Then from the across back, across chest, upward, we divided by 2. Okay, so now let's impute our measurements on our pattern, starting from the hip. So we have 8.75. So from this edge, we have 8.75. We're imputing the same thing. 8.75 also. Okay, for the waist, we have 6.5. We repeat the same thing here also. 6.5. Okay, now for the bust, we have 8.5. Now note for this other part, which is the front, okay, we are not putting the bust measurement here, rather we are taking it up. We are taking it up here. We're not putting the bust measure. Look at the bust line. The back bust was imputed here, the front bust was taken up, okay, which is 8.5, which is 8.5. So around right now, I want to connect these points together. I want to connect these points together. Okay, so for our cross back, we have 6.7. Now we are bringing it to this bust line also. We're bringing it down to this bust line also. This 6.75, we impute it here, and we also impute 6.75 at the across back, 6.75. Okay, now we take a straight line down. Then the same thing, we come here. We put our 6.75 here. No, 6.5 rather here. And on the upper part, we put 6.5 also here. Okay, so at this point, all right, at this point, how do we get our neckline? Okay, how can we achieve our neck line or our neck hole? Okay, how do we do it is that we set the bust divided by 8 plus 1 divided by 2. Okay, let's assume our bust is 34. Let's assume our bust is 34, and we divide 34 by 8. Okay, it will give us 4.25. Okay, using your calculator, you can feel free to use your calculator. Most phones these days come with the application of calculator. So 34 divided by 8 gives us 4.25 plus 1 will be 5.25. Now finally we are dividing this by 2 again, will give us 2.625, that is 258. So this is how we are going to impute our measurement for the neckline. Okay, so 2.625, that's 258. So having 258 here, I mark it. I also mark here, I'm going to be marking 258 plus 3/4 of an inch, which will be 3 inches. Okay, so, and this is how I go about it. I square lines. Okay, so what we do here is we measure half of an inch here, and on this point, half of an inch. And using our French curve, we make a curve here. Okay, using our French curve, we make a curve here. Now coming to this back, apart from the center length, we also have a full back length. We have a full back length. Our neck to waist or our center length is 13, but however, our full back length is also 1 inch ahead, which is 14. Okay, I repeat that again for the sake of emphasis. Our full back length is 14 inches, while our center back length is 13 inches. Okay, so this is 14 inches. Our full back length is 14 inches. Okay, So let me make a, okay, 14 inches, right? So what do we do now? This same measurement we have here for the neckline, we go 6.625. Then we square that up. Okay, remembering our half an inch here. Then we take a cuff down. Okay. Now, however, this 1 inch difference between the full back length and the center back length, it differs with persons. There are people, it could be more, it could be less. People could be, the difference between their full back length and their center back length could be half an inch, it could be 3/4 of an inch, but for this particular person, it is actually 1 inch difference. Okay. Now back again. What we want to get this time around is our across shoulder. So our front across shoulder is 14 inches. So half of 14 is 7 inches. Half of 14 is 7 inches. So we square down a line. We square down a line. It's in a 90 degree. Okay. We square down a line. All right. The next thing, we're going to repeat this at the back too. Our cross shoulder for the back is about 15 inches. So half of 15 is 7.5 or 7.5 inches. So what we do at the back also is to square down. Okay, we are trying to get our shoulders. We square down. Okay. Now after squaring down, this is the time we are now going to make use of our shoulder slope. This is the time we're going to make use of our shoulder slope. Okay, so for our front shoulder slope, what's our front shoulder slope? Our front shoulder slope is 15.75. So from this center, this is our waistline, okay? For the sake of emphasis, 15.75, that's our front shoulder slope. So we are taking it this way to this point, 15.75. Now this is 15.75. So we are adding extra to 1/8 of an inch, which is going to make it 16 inches. Okay, we are just adding that to 1/8 of an inch is to make it 16 inches. So here I mark 16 inches. This is my shoulder slope. Here I mark 16 inches. Okay, let me also mark that out also. Remember we took the shoulder slope measurement. Okay, so that is my shoulder slope. Now I'm going to connect the neck point to the shoulder point. Okay, you can see how I'm connecting that. So we're going to repeat the same on this also. What is the shoulder slope? What is the shoulder slope for the back? The back shoulder slope here is 14.5 inches. So from here, from the waistline, I'll place my tape, center back waistline. I'll place my tape, then connecting it to this place I squared down. We said 14.5. So we are adding to 1/8 of an inch to it, which so it's going to be 14.75. That 1/8 of an inch is for ease. Okay, so we are adding to 1/8 of an inch to it to give us that. So we are connecting. For the sake of emphasis, I'm going to be bringing the shoulder slope to the center back. This is the shoulder slope for the center back. Now the next thing we have to look for, okay, or we are going to impute into the pattern, is our ease. There's something called ease. E-A-S-E. is something called ease. We're going to have a wearing ease. Now, as it is for the measurement I took for this person, for this model, this is actually our body measurement, of which if we are to make a garment of this measurement, she might not be able to wear the clothes, okay, because it will be too tight, because this is our exact body measurement. However, there's something called wearing ease, okay. Ease differs with persons and style, okay. Now, for a slimmer figure, one can have an ease of 2-1-2. What does that mean? 2 inches for the bust, okay, 1 inch for the waist, and 2 inches for the hip, okay. Now, for a fuller figure, we can have 3-2-2, okay. 3 for the bust, 2 for the waist, 2 for the hip, okay. So it depends on personality, what they actually want. But for a closer fit of garments, this ease will do. So for this client, or for this model I took measurement of, she's a slim figure, so I would rather use 2-1-2 for her as a wearing ease of this garment. So how do I impute the measurement of that? So I'll just divide this 2 by 4, and it will give me half inch, or 0.5 of an inch, okay. I'm going to divide each by 4. So dividing 2 by 4 will give me 0.5. Dividing 1 by 4 is going to give me 0.25. Dividing 2 by 4 is going to give me 0.5. So on the bust, I'm going to add 0.5 as my wearing ease. On the waist, I'm going to add 0.25 as my wearing ease. On the hip, I'm going to add 0.5 as the wearing ease. Then I'll take a straight line down, connecting points together. Okay, now in the front, I'll repeat the same process by adding half of an inch on this bust line, quarter of an inch on the waist, half of an inch on the hip, and I will have a connecting line connecting these points together. Connecting these points together. However, if we look at the human figure is 3-dimensional. What do I mean by the human figure is 3-dimensional? If you understand this, you will understand what it takes to style and to draft patterns very well. When I mean a human being is 3-dimensional, means the human being has height, has width, and has depth. Okay, so at this point in time, we are going to be getting our dots. We are going to be imputing our dots into our pattern. Ease has been added already, but we have to shape it, okay, as it's supposed to be. So how do we get our dots in front? Okay, now this is the front of our pattern. This is our front pattern. Okay, this is front, indicating that, and this is back. Okay, so we have our front block and we have our back block. Now the next thing we are going to be looking at is how to impute our dots. How do we get our dots? Okay, starting from this point, what's it called? Our bust span. That's the measurement we took from one nipple to the other, is the bust span. For this model, we took about 6 inches. Okay, so half of that will be 3 inches. Half of 6 inches of this bust span is 6 inches. So half of that will be 3 inches. So we are connected. Okay, so we are connected. Now on this part, we have the across back. The across back, half of the across back measurement, we've already divided this across back into 2, giving us 6.275. So this 6.75 is also going to be divided into 2 to give us our dark line also. So half of 6.75 will be 3.3. Will be 3.3. Okay, 3.38 of an inch. 3.3. 3.3. So we have a line to connect. We have a line to connect. Okay? Having this line to connect, what we now do is that we come up by 2 inches from this dart's leg. We come up by 2 inches. We come up by 2 inches. Okay? That's from the center dart part, and from the place, the line we have the ease, we come up by 2 inches. Okay? So the next thing we are going to be looking at right now is our bust depth or our bust point. Now from this, the beginning of this part, which is from the beginning of our center length, we will get our bust depth or our bust point. And what we have as our bust depth of our bust point, we have it as 9.5 inches. This is where 9.5 inches stands. So we are still raising this dart leg higher to that point. Okay, so from the top to this point is about 9.5 inches. Okay, so what do we do now? We are going to be imputing our darts. How do we impute our darts? Is by measuring from this point. You're not measuring from the waist side, you're measuring from, you know, you have taken an ease of about 2 to 8 of an inch out of that part, okay, which is your 1, okay, ease. So we are adding this to this, okay. So this is what we have here. Then we are adding this to this, stopping at this point, stopping at that point where you have the ease also. So we have about 4.75. We have about 4.75. So at this point now we are going to be dividing 4.75 by 6. Okay, so 7.75 divided by 6 gives us 0.7916. Okay, let's assume it's 0.75. That is 3/4 of an inch. So at this side of the darts, of this dart leg, we are putting 0.75 here. Here we are putting 0.75 here. At the side where this is, we are putting 0.75 here. At this other ease side, from the waistline, remember it's from the waistline, we are putting 0.75 here. Then in between these darts, we are putting 0.75 here and 0.75 and at this part also. So we are connecting the lines. Finally, we have our darts. Okay, we have our darts. Okay, from the side, this is the side seam part, we are connecting. Okay, now looking at the hip part, you will discover that the hip is kind of straight. The human hip is not straight actually. So what we'll do from here to this point is that we just measure, and whatever it gives us, we'll just divide this into 2, looking for the midpoint of the line. Looking for the midpoint of the line. And when you get the midpoint, you just come out by 1/8 of an inch. Come out by 1/8 of an inch. Then you use your hip curve, the curvy part of your pattern master, to smoothen the curve at the hip. Okay, you use that to smoothen the curve at the hip. You repeat the same process at this other side. Okay, looking for the midpoint. Here. Okay, you come out by 1/8 of an inch using your curve. Okay, you make a curve at the hip. You can see it's more curvier at the part of the hip. Now there's something, we are almost done with the drafting of this pattern, but there's something I want us to know here. Now coming to this part, okay, this part where you have the side seam, we are coming down here by 2 inches. Remember what we have from here to here is 3 inches. Okay, we are imputing that 3 inches here. This is going to be our bust darts. This is going to be our bust darts. Then we are connecting. They are connecting. Okay, so as it is right now, we want to through our darts. We want to through these darts right now. How do we through these darts? By picking the lower parts of this dart leg, trying to make a crease out of it, crease it up. Okay. When we crease it up, we'll join it to the other dart leg. We join it to the other dart leg. Okay, this must give you an arc. If it doesn't arc, you're not doing it rightly. This must give you an arc. Okay, now we are throwing our darts. So we want to get our side seam very clearly right now. Now from this waist point, we are bringing it back to the side seam. Then using our tracing wheel, we are able to trace and throw our darts. And voila, here we have our bust dart here. Now, we are almost done with this drafting. Now, what we do next is that we measure our front shoulder slope. We'll measure our front shoulder, and here we are having about 4.75. Here we are having about 5. Okay, so we can easily ease that if we want to sew. There is not much difference between this and this. If the difference was kind of much, we could probably bring out a dart. We can still remove to 1/8 of an inch actually out of this part. So what we do here is that we have about 5 inches here. So looking for the midpoint, this is the midpoint here, which is 2.5. So angle 90 degrees. We are going in about 3 inches. And we are taking away to 1/8 of an inch. It's actually not so much of a dart. Okay, there are darts that could be more, so we are going 3 inches in. It's actually not so much of a dart. It can actually be eased in while sewing. Okay, it's not so much of a dart. So we are going to throw this also. The dart is optic. So throwing this also, we're throwing this dart. So the dart is not so much. It's not so much actually, just a little dart. This is almost invisible, but there could be people that have more darts. Okay, now finally is our armhole, and we are done with this draft. How do we get our armhole? Okay, now the measurement we have here is about 2.25 inches. 2.25 inches divided by 2, that will be 1.125. Okay, so from here I'll get my 45 degree. Please, if you don't have a pattern master, you can also use a protractor. You can get protractor from mathematical sets, okay, which is not hard to find. And we draw out our 45 degree. Now from this 45 degree, remember we divided the measurements between of these two parts into 2. So what we got was about 1.25. So we are putting our 1.25 here, and we are drawing. Okay, let me use this. Okay, using my flexible curve, we're actually making our armhole. So I'm connecting this point to this point, sliding it down through this part. Okay. Okay, so you can see what I have here. The same process for the front, but slightly different. We divided this into 2 to give us the center point. Now this is going to be divided into 4. From this point to this point, we have about 238. Okay, so 238 divided into 4. But first, let me have my angle 90 degree first. My angle 45 degree rather. Okay. My angle 45 degree. So what I measured here was about 2 points. That's 2.375 divided by 4. 2.375 divided by 4 will give us what? I'm joining this together also. This is just a guide. It's not, okay, it's just a guide. And we have 0.59. So let's just say we have approximately 0.5 inches, like that is half of an inch. So from this part to this part, from this slope to this across chest, whatever we have, we look for the midpoint. So we have 3.75. Okay, we look for the midpoint of that. That's just to give us a guide. Okay, this is the midpoint of that. Okay, now we are going 3/8 of an inch in. We're going 3/8 of an inch in. Now we are now going to use our curve. We're going to use our curve. Okay. Okay, using our flexible curve. Okay, so using our flexible curve, we have a nice armhole. So at this point in time, we are done with drafting our pattern. So this is our back bodice, and this is our front bodice. Okay, it is not complicated. For those of you that want to really learn this, you can actually play as much or as many times as you want, and just follow the steps gradually as it goes, and I promise you, you get it It's not something difficult. It's not something you cannot do, you know. So at this point in time, I hope you enjoyed the time and the moment we had in drafting a bodice. We are bringing more and more for you into this channel. This is not the end, actually. This is just the beginning. We through this bodice, through this basic block we have, we'll be able to do a lot from it. And trust me, it's not going to be a waste of time. So till I meet you next time, please don't forget to like, share, click on that notification bell. So as we upload new videos, you'll be able to get notifications from us. Till I see you in next time, do have a good time. Bye.